Hello, good evening and welcome. You've just entered the arena. I'm Michael Coren, whether you like it or not, and thank you for joining me on this Thanksgiving. Enjoy the turkey. What has the turkey ever done to you? Now, it was pretty predictable that teacher Jacques Tremblay would have to resign last week as soon as the press and the public were made aware that he wrote teenage pornography novels. Why am I grinning? Resign, that is, as the chair of discipline at the Ontario College of Teachers. In other words, the author of, wait for this, The Sexteens and the Fake Goddess, an appallingly bad book full of, quote, fleshy buttocks, gorgeous bosoms, and actually, far more worryingly, a deputy headmaster who hides a sexual assault and tells people how he'd like to have sex with his pupils, and teaches in threesomes with students, lessons in French kissing, cocaine taking, and sex cults. Sounds like Sun News. Had for years heard cases involving teachers accused of inappropriate or illegal behaviour with a student, particularly of a sexual nature. I know you couldn't make this up. In fact, it's so achingly bizarre that it could almost be part of a bad porn novel. Now, if the sad fellow wants to write such garbage, that's entirely up to him. But he's a teacher who's paid a lot of money to care for our children, and as such has a moral responsibility both inside and outside of the classroom. Now, more pertinently, of all the teachers in Ontario, big province, was he really the only one who could be found to set and test the standard for sexual propriety among teachers? It's impossible to believe, as is the idea that none of this man's colleagues were aware of his writings and his attitudes. And many of them had known Tremblay for years. They knew his family, spent a great deal of time with him. He would also surely have been scrutinised and checked before being given such a massively sensitive position. So who else knew the truth? And did they either not do their job properly, or did they think that writing pornography involving sexually manipulative teachers was ever so brave and entirely compatible with protecting children? Or frankly, I opt for the latter. And I also believe that there are people at the highest level of our public education system who still support Mr. Tremblay and think he's a victim of hysterical parents and interfering moral zealots. Look, I've already been told this by two senior teachers whose contempt for parents, quote, "We're educators, but they're unqualified and too close to be objective," is rivaled only by their arrogance. We need to know who else was involved and how many other teachers have similar philosophies and perhaps even write similar books. Now, how interesting it is that this scandal comes just as school boards across Canada are beginning to introduce sex education curriculums to 5-year-olds that are intrusive, agenda-driven, and far too adult for these little ones to assimilate without significant emotional damage. Imagine if Mr. Tremblay had been a Catholic priest. There'd be headlines screaming that this was typical of Catholicism and of all religion. And look, it's not the fault of all teachers or of public education, but it does raise many acid questions, which I doubt will ever be asked, let alone properly answered. Teachers are not always right, but they seem to be increasingly and aggressively left. And remember, teachers' unions fund campaigns against Conservative candidates at numerous elections and like to tell you and me what to think and what to do. Copies of that very bad porn novel to every Liberal and NDP candidate, please, unless, of course, they've already read it or already written it.